Hello, how's it going everyone? So in today's video, we're going to be covering, is demand gen worth it for you? What are some of the pitfalls of it? What are some of the benefits? And how are we using it for our clients? So this question has come up quite a bit inside of the school community that we have, as well as just from clients that we also are working with. And it comes down to sort of Google's way of trying to say, hey, you can generate demand by using this inventory. And the reality is, just to skip to the point, is that it depends. And the likelihood of it actually going cold, meaning going top of funnel to generate demand, is pretty low. The way that we use it in most cases is actually to retarget and actually to show to people again and again, not necessarily go out and find new people in the first place. So the issue with demand gen, and this actually covers Google as well, is that it captures the demand or the warm audience that's already sort of warmed up and showing good signals. So if you are running another channel like Meta, then your warm audience is going to be larger and larger and larger. And so what that means is that the likelihood of demand gen to then be captured by the warm audience, meaning it's going to go and say, oh, there's people that are easy to convert over here, I'm going to go after these people, it's going to do that right away. Now, some people might say, oh, but we can exclude the audiences and we can remove all the converters and I can upload customer lists, so that will bypass that issue and it should go cold, right? Every single time we've tried this, it always goes to warm if there is a warm audience to capture. So we've tried it with exclusions. We've tried it with going after, first click new customers with edge tagging. So the typical SOP that we use for our conversion tracking. And we say, okay, we only want new customers. We only import in new customers. We exclude all return customers, and it still goes after repeat. It's horrible in the sense of this issue. I wish we can get around it, but I have not found a solution. John has not found a solution, and it's just, we keep retesting it again every like 2 months, maybe month, and it always is the same exact situation where we scale it up, we hit a wall, we realize it's not actually improving the P&L from a NMER or NCAAC perspective, meaning that we're not getting more efficient on acquiring new customers. And so then we come to the conclusion of, okay, it's just stealing attribution from Meta or some other platform or maybe another campaign. And so the only way, the caveat here, is the only way that we've been able to get demand gen to go colder is to have a budget that overshadows all of the warm traffic, right? So it consumes the warm traffic and then it will then prospect out, right? Because there's like a ratio. So if we're in a scenario where like this is the gap of, the size of the audience based on our budget, then we can say, okay, in this scenario here, our budget needs to grow further because we have this gap in between that says there's still more warm traffic to get consumed from the algorithm in order for it to then get forced to go and find more new people. And so when we scale it up further, that's when we get to the equation of saying, okay, the difference of scale from where it was at previously, covering all the warm traffic, now starting to go colder and go after colder and colder audiences and then get them to convert. The issue, though, with this is that this kind of traps you in a scenario where you are leaning too heavy on demand gen to go and find new customers, because then what happens is if you were to scale up another channel, this warm traffic cloud, you could say, or warm signals from a bunch of users coming from other channels is going to then overshadow your budget again on demand gen. So then you have to scale up demand gen even further. And then it just becomes this battle back and forth of saying, well, I want to diversify, where my ads are showing, but then if I push too much budget into other channels, demand gen will start to go warm and then it becomes inefficient. And so this is why in most cases we use demand gen from the perspective of we're just using it to retarget. We want to get efficient on retargeting, and so we want to make sure that the budget is within the warm audience cloud, and then we're seeing how that affects our P&Ls. So you can mess with this quite a bit. Like I said, people say, oh, we can make YouTube and demand gen work really well in conversion-based bidding. I've yet to see it happen over the hundreds of accounts that I've worked in. So just keep that in mind, that if you see a really good ROAS or if you see a really good, improvement in the overall account health because of it, just be very skeptical. And I would say do a test push on it and then look at your overall NMER or NCAAC efficiency to then decide if it's actually worth it or not. And if it is, let me know, because oh my god, I would love to see and understand exactly how it would work inside of your business, because I've yet to find a way to see it work. And in addition to that as well too, I think the only possible thing that I can see working in this scenario would be if it's a super just straightforward business where it's like, hey, we have this product, we don't buy another product no matter what kind of thing. Then I can see it potentially scooping up and having more of a effect going after, more new customers versus, people that are already warmed up on that of, Facebook. Because if we think about it, the warm cloud size, meaning like how many people are in your audience per se that are easy for it to latch onto, is shrinking if you have no LTV. So the ratio then becomes a lot better. So I would say that some scenarios like that might be a little bit better, but like I said, I've never really wanted to run it because I've always been kind of trapped if I start running demand gen and then we rely on that too much. That is to say, if you crack the code on this for cold traffic, yeah, you'll be in a blue ocean for sure. Sometimes when you want to do specific placements, you can go for that. I've just not been able to see that work effectively because it will still go slightly beyond the placements because it can't match perfectly. Or it just won't serve. So if you wanted to say, hey, we only show on these certain channels, you can try that. But then, like I said, you're limiting yourself to then manually scaling it based off the channels that you target. But if we were to look at this from like a macro scale perspective and exactly how good we could get at growing a business, meaning that we're doing 10%, 50% scale a week, definitely not demand gen. So anyways, hope you guys found this video useful. These are my thoughts on demand gen, kind of where it's at now in our strategies and what to look out for. And just hopefully this concept gives you some more context as to how the algorithm works around it. So anyways, thanks again, and I will see you guys in the next video.